Hi there, welcome to my channel where I bring you the best of practical data engineering episode in Databricks, Microsoft Fabric, and Azure. Today, I'm going to continue the series on architecting automated continuous integration and continuous deployment, popularly known as CI/CD, using GitLab with my well-crafted YAML code. As mentioned in one of my LinkedIn posts, hiring managers and recruiters now requires competence for many data engineering job opportunities being posted at least in the United Kingdom based on my findings. This means that this video is timely for you to develop these competencies across GitHub, Azure DevOps, and GitLab Git providers. I'm going to put a link of the automated Databricks notebook CI/CD using GitHub Actions in the comment section below so that you can watch if you have not seen that. By the way, I have noticed that 80% of those that watch my videos are not subscribers to my channel. While I'm not asking you to buy me a coffee, the best way to say thank you for the abundance of my data engineering knowledge that I'm sharing with you freely is to hit the subscribe button, like the video, and share with your social network. And enough of all these talks. Let's go into the practical implementation of this Databricks notebook CI/CD using GitLab as a prerequisite to follow along in this practical end-to-end data engineering solution. You need to create free GitLab accounts and two Databricks free edition workspaces, which are actually not covered in this video. To create your GitLab account, you need to navigate to gitlab.com and follow the prompts. It is quite straightforward and it is similar to how we create GitHub accounts. In my case, I've created a profile and I can see my details. So I'm going to proceed to create GitLab project, which is going to house my repository, branches, codes, jobs, pipelines, variables, among other assets. To create my project, I'm going to click on this create new project at the top right hand corner. And I'm going to choose the kind of project I want to create, either a blank project or I want to create from a template, or I want to import a project or run CI/CD for external repository. In our case, I'm going to create a blank project and I'm going to say this create blank project page. So I need to define the name for the project and the project URL and the visibility, including the project configuration. So for the project name, I'm going to call this on my CI/CD project. And I'm going to come to the project URL. So I can choose either a group or a namespace as my project URL. So I'm going to click on that and I can see I've got groups and this user namespace. I'm going to click on this, and for the visibility, I can decide to make this a private project or internal to my organization or my users, or I can make it public so that people can see it over the internet. I'm going to proceed with the default private visibility level, and I'm going to initialize the repository with the readme.md file, which is similar to what we've got in the GitHub and Azure DevOps Git providers. I'm going to come to the bottom and click on create project, and it's going to automatically create the project, which is the same thing as the repository. So my CI/CD project is now created and I can see the readme.md file, which is the initial commit. So after doing this, I'm going to create two Git folders in the dev and prod Databricks workspaces respectively and clone this Git repository into each of the workspaces, and this is going to require authentication to the GitLab repository. So I'm going to come to my Cornerstone Dev workspace and I'm going to swipe to the workspace and I'm going to click on create, and I can see the option to create the Git folder at the workspace level, not at the repos level, which is the recommended by Databricks. And I can see the Git repository URL box, including the provider and the Git folder name. I'm going to come to the Chrome browser, which is the Cornerstone Prod Databricks workspace. I'm going to navigate to the workspace and I'm going to click on the create a Git folder, and I'm going to come back here and I want to come to the my CI/CD project repository, and I can click on this code and I can see the clone with HTTPS. I'm going to copy that and I'm going to paste in here, and it's going to detect GitLab as the Git provider, and I can see the my CI/CD project name is automatically inferred, which is the name of my GitLab repository. I'm going to come here and I'm going to paste the same URL, and again we have the same thing. So it's really important to differentiate the Git folder name because we're going to be having the dev and the production environments and also the workspaces. So I'm going to clear this and call this on prod and this is going to ask me for the Git provider email address, including the surname and the authentication. Now, before I proceed, I'm going to come back here and I'm going to call this one dev, and I'm going to click on create Git folder also. And again, we are on the same page. So I'm going to get rid of this and provide my Git email address. I'm going to copy the email address and I'm going to come to the prod and I'm going to paste. I can ignore this nickname, that is really not necessary. So we need to generate the GitLab personal access token, which must have the right repository permission. So this is really important. To generate that, I'm going to come back to my GitLab and I can click on my icon and I can go to edit profile. On the left hand side, I can see access tokens, and I've got one already created. I'm going to create a new one. And let me just call this one token or whatever I want to call it. And I'm going to come to the definition of the scope that's going to be associated with this newly created token. So this is what's needed, right? Repository scope, which grants read-write access to repository on private projects using Git over HTTPS, not using the API. So I'm going to give this a click, and that's the scope that is needed for this to work, and click on generate token. This is now generated, and I'm going to copy this into the clipboard, and I can come back here. I can get rid of this and Control V to paste what I copied and click on save, and voila, credential update successfully saved, and the Git repository is now cloned into this Cornerstone Dev Databricks Workspace. Nice and easy. We can see the readme.md file. I'm going to come back to the production environment and I'm going to reuse the same token and click on save. And again, this is successfully saved, and we can see this has been cloned into the Prod Databricks Workspace. So we are currently in the main collaboration branch across the two workspaces, which is really straightforward. Now, I'm going to proceed to create a feature branch on top of the main branch of this dev Databricks Workspace, and we can create our notebook. So I'm going to click on this main, and I can see this window. So I've talked about all of this in my previous video on the automated Databricks CI/CD using GitHub Action. So I'm not going to go into all the detail. So I'm going to click on create a branch, and let's call this one feature, and I want to call this one create notebook. And this is going to be based on the main branch, and I'm going to click on create, and this is going to be created, and we can proceed to create our Databricks notebook asset and use our PySpark code to see how we can drive this automated CI/CD using GitLab. So this is created, and I'm going to close this for now, and I can see that we are currently in the feature branch of the dev Git folder. So I'm going to click on create. Now I can create the notebook straight away, but I'm going to organize things by moving them into a folder. So I can call this one sales folder. You can use whatever name you like and click on create. And this is now created inside this feature branch, and I can click on create a notebook. We can also create asset bundle, dashboard, and so on and so forth. I'm going to probably show all of this in future videos, but for now, we are focusing on the Databricks notebook asset. So click on that, and this is going to be created. So I'm going to come in and rename. Let's call this one sales notebook, and press enter to commit. And I'm just going to quickly paste this PySpark code. So basically, we are importing all of these modules, and then we are creating a schema that consists of this order ID, order date, region, product, category, price, and quantity columns. And then we are just creating the sample data. So I'm going to come here and just use the close square bracket so that I can get rid of the error on the side. So these are sample data for 2022. Awesome. And so commit and push this to the feature branch we created, which is the development branch. I'm going to click on this back, and I'm back to the dev Git folder, and I can see this simply means we've added a code, and I can see the cell CMD, the first cell, and I'm going to write a commit message. Let's just call this one created notebook, and new sales data is going to be just a sample description. So I can see the sales notebook.ipynb, and I'm going to click on commit and push. So this is going to be committed and pushed to the feature branch, and we can say successfully committed and pushed changes to branch, feature, and this is what we're doing. We are creating a notebook, and I can see the option to create a pull request to merge the code that has been committed and pushed to the feature branch to the main collaboration branch. Now, before I proceed to initiate the pull request, I'm going to quickly come back in and I can quickly go back to the project, which is the same thing as the repository, and I'm going to see the option you pushed feature branch create notebook So this happened some 33 seconds, and I can see the option to create a merge request. So in GitLab, it is known as create merge request, MR, but in GitHub and Azure DevOps and other GitLab Git providers, it is known as PR, pull request. But whichever one, they are the same thing. So I'm going to quickly navigate to the feature branch we created, and I can see the sales folder, and I can see the sales notebook.ipynb. I'm going to click on that, and I can see the code we pasted. Cool. So I'm going to initiate the MR from here. I can also do that from the notebook. Anyone is fine. So I can see the title. I can see we're actually creating a new match request from this feature branch into the main branch. And we can also change branches if there's a need, but this is actually fine and good to go. We can see the description, and at the bottom there's an option to add an assignee to this MR. And we can also add a reviewer, usually maybe a senior data engineer, whatever, as the reviewer. And then for the merge options, this is going to delete the source branch when merge request is accepted. And this is really important because we don't want to keep all the development branches because they are not needed after we've promoted the code from the feature branch into the main branch. So this is actually good for us, and I'm going to click on create merge request MR, and I can see created notebook, and this actually opened, and this needs to be approved, and then we can merge. So in the overview, we can see the approve, we can see the option to also merge. When you come to the commit, we're going to see with the initial commit, which is the created notebook, and when I come to the changes, I can see all the 30 lines of code that we promoted. Cool. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to click on approve. This is actually optional, but it's a good one to approve if we can go ahead and approve. And I'm going to click on merge. So before I do that again, I can say delete source branch. Again, this is actually telling me this is going to be deleted. The feature branch is going to be deleted after the merge is done. So we are happy with that. Click on merge, and changes will land soon. And there we go. The merge succeeded. So I can see the details. This has been deleted, the feature branch, and we can see the merge into main with this reference number, and we can see the activity and so on and so forth. Let's go ahead and check the main branch. So when I click on this, I can see that the code has been promoted to the main branch sales folder, and I can see the sales notebook.ipynb, and I can see the code. Awesome. So since the feature branch is now deleted, back to the Databricks Workspace, I can see we only have the main branch, and when I click on that, I can select, and once this is done loading, I'm going to click on done, and there we go. We have the code promoted to the main branch. Absolutely easy and straightforward. Now we want to check the production Databricks Workspace whether the code is also promoted to this level or not. So I'm going to click on this refresh. Definitely the code was not promoted to this environment because the GitLab-ci.yml code is going to do the continuous integration and continuous delivery for us. And this simply means our solution is actually working and we are good to go. So I'm going to come here. Now at this point, we want to go ahead and create our variables, which is going to include our Databricks host name, Databricks token for the dev and production workspaces, and it's going to include the repo dev path, which is going to pick all the code in the dev Databricks Workspace main branch and promote into the Prod Databricks Workspace main branch. So to create all our variables and grant all the necessary permissions, I'm going to come back here where I am, and you want to scroll down to the bottom and then click on settings, and then the CI/CD is actually located here. So I'm going to click on that. Now, if you're not familiar with GitLab as a Git provider, this can be quite overwhelming, but you don't need to actually worry because this is actually running on software as a service platform, not the desktop. So we don't need to worry about too much of all of this. We just want to go to the key part, variables. And this is actually familiar if you know how to perform CI/CD in Azure DevOps and also in GitHub. So basically we have variables which store information that we can use in our job script. each variables or project can define a maximum of 8,000 variables. So I'm going to click on this to expand, and we want to grant the minimum role to use the pipeline variables that we're going to create in a matter of seconds. So make sure you either grant the owner, that is the owner of this repository, or a maintainer if you have more than one person, or a developer. So make sure you click on save whichever you choose out of these three options, and this has now been saved. And then we can go to the bottom, and then we can see the option to create or add any variables. So I'm going to click on that, and then we can see the type, we can see the environment, and the visibility. This is going to be masked automatically because we don't want to expose some key information like tokens and some URL and so on and so forth. And then we see the protect variable, and we're going to be calling this variable using this $sign. So this is fine, and I'm going to come to the bottom, and then for the description, let's start with the dev deployment target URL. So I'm going to copy this because it's an optional one. The key name is key, and I'm going to come to the bottom, and I can fetch the URL that is pointing to the Databricks dev environment. So I'm going to come back here, and in the URL, I'm going to copy all of this to the left, Control C, and I'm going to Control V to paste, and this is what is needed. I'm going to click on add variable, and this is now added, and you can see protected, masked, and expanded. So I'm going to proceed to create the dev token. So let me just get rid of this URL and type in token, because I'm going to be calling all of this in the .gitlab-ci.yml file, which is going to perform the continuous integration and the deployment. So I'm going to tap and Control V to paste, tap, and then for the token, I'm going to come here. Don't forget, this is the dev Databricks Workspace. I'm going to click on the top right hand corner, go to the settings, go to the developer, manage access token, and I want to generate this token dev. And I'm going to click on generate, and I'm going to copy, click on done, come back in a Control V, click on add variable, and then this is now added. Let's move to the production side. So I'm going to type in prod. First, I want to start with the URL, and I'm going to copy this and tap, and I'm going to come to the browser. So this is my cornerstone Prod Databricks Workspace. Top right hand corner, settings, developer, access token, click on manage, generate, and let's call this one prod, and click on generate. Copy this into the clipboard, click on done. I'm going to come back in a Control V and click on add variable. So this is now added, and let me come back up. Sorry, we need the URL, not the token. Okay, no problem. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to quickly move up a little bit. Let me just move this up. I'm going to cancel this, and rather than using this URL, I'm going to click on this to edit. So if you've made any mistake, so we can always correct that. So since this is a token, I'm just going to call this one token, not URL. So token, and I'm going to copy this name and Control V to paste. So this must match, and this is token, not a URL. Pardon me for that. So I'm going to save the changes, so we can always make the changes if there's any mistake. So this now being created nicely. So I'm going to click on add variable again, and let's do the production URL now. So I'm going to copy this, tap, and I'm going to come back in here, and let me copy this in the URL box, Control C, tab key, and then Control V to paste and add a variable. So you can see we have the URL token for the prod, and then the URL and token for the dev environment. Awesome. And then I'm going to also create the repo dev prod, because this is going to be the point where the codes will be picked from the dev Databricks Workspace and promoted to the Prod Databricks Workspace with the CI/CD for our GitLab. So I'm going to actually continue and Control V to paste, and for the value, I'm going to come here. Since this is dev, I'm going to come to the workspace, and I can go to the dev git folder, click on the kebab, go to copy URL path, and we need the full path. So I'm going to come here, Control V, so you can see this is actually a different email address, and I've got dev here. I can click on add variable, and this is now added. And I can come here and create the last one, which is the repo path, repo plot path. I'm going to copy this and Control V, tab key, and I'm going to come to the workspace, go to the prod git folder, click on the kebab, copy the full path. Oops, I didn't do that properly. And then I can Ctrl V to paste, and you can see this actually a different email address, and click on add variable. So these are now added. Cool. So we can always make changes to our variables. We can always, probably turn them from masked to visible or whatever you want to do. So for example, I can turn this repo path and repo prod to unmask. So I can come and click on this, and I can click on visible and click on save changes at the bottom. So you can see the masked is gone. I can do the same thing for the prod. So of course you can actually leave it in mask. It's going to work. I'm just trying to show you whether mask or not mask, but it's going to work. I've tested them. So I'm going to click on save changes, and then there we go. So we can see the mask has gone. So we are done with all of this. So I'm going to proceed to create the CI/CD in my GitLab file. So to do that, I'm going to navigate back here, and I'm going to click on this. So don't forget, this is the main branch. I want to make sure that all the code changes are automatically picked up and promoted to the Databricks Prod Workspace. So to create our CI/CD Git YAML file, I'm going to click on this plus sign and create a new file. And then this is going to be named .gitlab-ci.yml. So I'm going to quickly paste my YAML code and just walk you through the code easily. So this is the code, and I'm going to scroll. So at the top, we have stage. So this defines the sequence of jobs to run in my pipeline. And then we have the first stage, which is responsible for deploying to the dev Databricks workspace. And then we have the second stage, deploy prod, which is the second stage responsible for deploying to the prod Databricks workspace. And then at the bottom here, we have this deploy to dev, which is basically the name of the job that we want to execute. And then again, you can see stage deploy dev. This is the job to the deploy dev stage, so it runs during that stage. And then I've got this image Python 3.9, which is the official Python 3.9 Docker image as the environment to run this specific CI/CD job. And then at the bottom here, we have this before script. So you can see I've got pip install quiet Databricks. So this needs to be installed quietly so that it's not going to disrupt the job in the pipeline. And then for this script, this is basically a main command executed for our job. And I've got this echo deploying to dev Databricks workspace, which is basically a print message which is going to be recorded in our logs. And I've got this Databricks workspace import dir overwrite, and then I've got this // and then this $ repo dev path. So this basically use the Databricks CLI to import the entire directory in this // into the Databricks workspace path defined by this repo dev path. And I've got this main. This simply means that the code in the main branch is going to be promoted only upon the successful running of this Databricks CI/CD job. And then I've got the two variables at the bottom here, which is the Databricks host, and this is the dev deployment target URL, and the Databricks token, which is the dev deployment target token that we created alongside this repo path. So these are needed in order to successfully authenticate to the Databricks dev workspace. And then we have the deploy to production similar to the deploy to dev here. So the same concept works. We have the stage, and then we have this Python 3.9 Docker image, and then we have this before. Again, we have to install the Databricks CLI quietly, and then we have the same echo Databricks and so on and so forth. And then we are authenticating with this Databricks hostname and Databricks token. So this is very easy, and you can see in this case we are not exposing any important information because they are already stored inside our variables. So we're just calling them $, the production deployment target token, and repo dev part, repo production part, and then we have this dev URL and tokens. So this is going to be the code, and I'm going to make this code available for you, and it's quite straightforward. So I'm going to click on commit changes, and I can add a commit message. So this is going to be committed to the main branch because we want to make sure that all the codes changes in the main branch are automatically promoted to the Cornerstone production Databricks workspace. So I'm going to click on commit changes, and this is going to be absorbed, and we can see this pipeline status running. So I'm going to wait for some couple of moments, and this should give us either failed or passed. So I'm going to stop this video and we'll see what's going to happen. There we go. The pipeline status returned passed. So this means the deploy to dev and deploy to prod succeeded. I'm going to give that a click, and then we can see the details. We've got the past, and then we've got the pipeline. So this is the deploy to dev with green check mark and deploy to prod. Absolutely awesome. And I'm going to click on the job, and you can see the two jobs, and we can see the deploy to dev and deploy to prod stages. Really fantastic. And when I come to the Cornerstone production, bam, this just arrived some seconds ago, and our CI/CD is working as expected. I'm going to give this a click, and I can see the sales notebook, and I can see the code in the main branch of the Prod Databricks Workspace. Absolutely awesome. Now I'm going to come back to the Dev Databricks Workspace, and I'm going to cancel this. So I'm going to create another feature branch. So we want to create a Spark data frame. So I'm going to call this on feature, and I'm going to say create Spark data frame, and I'm going to click on create. So again, we're creating a development branch, which is going to be based on the main branch, the collaboration branch, and then we can access the notebook and then use our code. So this is now created. I can give this a refresh just to be able to see I've got the feature branch. So we can go to the sales folder, we can go to the sales notebook, and then at the bottom, I'm going to create the cell number 2, and I'm going to paste this spark.create data frame, and then we're passing this sales data, which is what we've got at the top for the data, and then for the schema, this is the schema sales data, and this is stored inside the sales df data frame. So I'm going to click on this feature branch, and I can see we've got this simply means we have modified the content of the notebook, sales notebook.ipynb, and let me just call this one spark data frame or df. Just to save some time, I'm not going to bother writing any description. I'm going to click on commit and push to the feature branch we just created, and we can see this has been successfully committed and pushed to the feature branch. I'm going to click on create a pull request, and a new tab of the GitLab repository is opened automatically. I'm going to close this so that we don't confuse ourselves, and I can see the title. I'm going to quickly move this down to the bottom and click on the create MR, and I can see this has been provisioned. I'm going to approve and click on the merge, and voila, this is merged successfully. Cool. We can see merged. I can go to the main branch, and I can go to, of course, this is going to automatically kick off the gitlab-ci.yml, and of course, this is going to run, and upon the successful running, we should see the code also in the notebook in our production Databricks workspace. So while that's going on, I'm going to quickly come to the sales folder here, and when I go to the bottom, we can see this is already, because we committed and pushed to the main branch. But in order to have the same code in the production Databricks workspace, I'm going to wait for this to turn green, and there we go. This succeeded. We can see the pipeline status has passed. I'm going to click on that, and we can also go through all the details, but I'm not going to go through the details again. So let's quickly come to the production, and I'm going to click on this to refresh, and let's see the code, whether it has been promoted or not. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom, and voila, we have the code promoted. Absolutely fantastic. So this simply means our CI/CD is working as expected. Now at this stage, I'm going to make a slight modification to the code in the production Databricks workspace, because I want to not only create the Spark data frame, but I want to write this as a Delta table into the Unity catalog that I've got in it. Oh, by the way, I don't have it. So I'm going to quickly come to the catalog, and I'm going to click on the add a catalog. I'm just call this one sales underscore UC, and I'm going to click on create, and I'm going to click on that and create a schema let's call this on sales underscore schema and click on create. So we're going to write our data into this schema of this Unity catalog. So I'm going to come back into my workspace and I can go to the prod. Now, because we're in the main branch, I'm going to create a feature branch on top of the Databricks production workspace so that I don't actually cause any problem. So for now, we've got all of this pool. So I'm going to click on this and we've got polling will clear out the cell and so on and so forth, no problem. I'm going to click on confirm, and once the polling has been done into the Databricks, then I can proceed to create the feature branch. So that's done. I'm going to click on the main branch again, and then everything's clear. I'm going to click on create, and let's call this one feature, and I'm going to call this one write to Unity catalog UC, and I'm going to click on create. So we're creating a feature branch, and once that's sorted, I can go ahead and access the notebook, and then we can write the content of the sales DF into our Unity catalog as a Delta table. So that's created, and I can click on this to refresh. Now, don't forget we are in production Databricks workspace, and I can go to the sales folder, sales notebook, and I'm going to scroll down to the bottom and create the cell number 3. And now we've got sales underscore df. So I'm going to call that sales underscore df, and I'm going to use the write method, and I'm going to specify the format, and this is going to be inside a double quote as a delta table, and I'm going to specify the mode. So this is going to be inside double quote. We are going to overwrite if data exists, and I'm going to specify the save as table method, and I'm going to type the name of the catalog, which is sales underscore UC dot, and I think the name of the schema is sales, just to check it out. So sales underscore schema, and then let's call this one transaction underscore TBL as the table. So this has been created. So it's really important we also commit and push this to the feature branch, and then we can create a PR to merge to the main branch of the Cornerstone production. So I'm going to click on that, and then we can see this has been modified, and let's just call this one write to UC, and I'm going to click on commit and push to the feature branch, and we can see the line of code in cell number 3 and successfully committed and pushed changes to the branch feature, and then we are performing writing to UC. And I'm going to click on create PR. Now you can see I'm actually in a different browser, so this is going to ask me to log in again into my GitLab. No problem. So I'm going to quickly do that. So I think this is my username and my password is correct. I'm going to click on sign in, and this is going to ask me to authenticate by getting my verification code, and I'm going to click on verify. So you need to verify because we are on a different browser. So the verification succeeded, and this is going to open the new merge request window. So again, you understand all of this. I'm going to just go ahead and click on create MR, and I'm going to quickly approve merge to the main branch, and this is going to be merged, and there we go, done. So I'm going to click on go to the main branch, and this is going to automatically trigger the gitlab-ci.yml. So I'm going to just wait for some seconds, and again, this must give us a successful result. Amazing. So the pipeline passed, so I'm going to click on that, and there we go. So this simply means that the code we just authored is now absorbed. So I'm going to click on this, and we can see we have the main branch only. Yeah. So I'm going to select, yeah, do not show this again, switch branch anyway. And once that's absorbed, I'm going to click on close, and that's close. Okay. So now we don't have any conflicts across the main branch of the Cornerstone Prod and Cornerstone Dev workspaces. So at this point, I'm not going to touch anything because the moment you click on anything, this is going to be recorded as modified. So I'm going to schedule this pipeline, and I'm going to just use every 1 minute, and I'm going to scroll down to the bottom, and let me close this for now. Oops, I inadvertently closed that. 1 minute, and let's click on create. Okay, so this is now created. All right, cool. So don't forget, once this succeeded, we should have this data written into our Unity catalog and of this sales schema. So for now, I'm going to click on this. We don't have any data. So I'm going to pause this video. So this currently, spinning, and I'm just going to wait. And once this succeed, then we should have this code fully executed from the cell number 1 to cell number 3, and then we should be able to see the data in the sales catalog, and then we can build our AI BI dashboard. So let's keep on waiting a little bit and see what happens. All right, so this succeeded. I'm going to give this a click, and we can see the succeeded. We can see the details, and let's quickly go to the main part, catalog, go to the schema, and when I click on refresh, boom, we have the transaction underscore TBL. Amazing. So I can click on the sample data. Let's quickly select the compute, serverless, starter, and I'm going to wait so that we can see the content of the data. So by the way, we just have about 5 records for the 2022 transactions. So let's see the sample data as Databricks load the records. Okay, cool. So we can see we have 8 transactions for the year 2022. Brilliant. Now let's go ahead and create our dashboard. So I'm going to just open, because the first one is AI dashboard. And there we go. I'm going to come to the data, and I can see the data selected automatically. I'm going to, of course, we don't even need to be added because it's already added. So let's go to a new page. All right. Let me just click on the new page, and I'm going to close this global filters. This is actually new stuff. And let me call this one report, and press enter. And let's just create a chart. All right, so total sales by region, and it's going to give us a clustered bar chart, I guess. Yeah, correct. Column chart rather, not bar chart. And let's create a one more. Let's say we just want to see the sum of the amount, the AI assistant. So I'm going to type in sum of quantity and select that, press enter. So we can see the total quantity. We've got only 15 for now. I'm going to accept. So this is how we can implement the automated CI/CD Databricks notebook using GitLab. I trust you enjoyed this video. If you do, please like, share, comment, and subscribe to this channel, because there's a lot to come. Thank you for watching. Bye for now. Cheers.